Imagine yourself in 1996. You've somehow gone to E3. Who knows, maybe you won a Nintendo Power Contest or something. I don't care. You go to the Sony conference and you see that Capcom's there. Capcom, one of your favorite companies because they made DuckTales on the NES. And what do they have to offer? They bring out something brand new to the table, something that would eventually become legendary. Ha! No, this was about 12 years before we hated Capcom. No, they brought out
Resident Evil.
Released in 1996, Resident Evil was one of the first entries to the survival horror genre, right behind games like Alone in the Dark and Sweet Home, which was actually one of the main inspirations for Resident Evil. At the time, when Resident Evil was released, there wasn't an action game like it. It was great. It featured great action, especially for something like a survival horror game. Of course, nowadays we see that as clunky and, not very good. But back then, that was wonderful. So let's talk about the story. Well, why don't I let the game tell you?
Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone situated in northwest Raccoon City, where we're searching for the helicopter of our compatriots Bravo Team, who disappeared during the middle of our mission.
You haven't found it?
No, I haven't found it yet. Bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City. There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten. Bravo Team went to the hideout of the group and disappeared.
Look, Chris!
It was Bravo Team's helicopter. Nobody was in it. But strangely, most of the equipment was still there. However, we soon discovered why.
Hey! Come here!
I think you get the gist. So the team runs to a mansion where they find it zombie infested. While exploring this mansion, you discover many documents suggesting that the corporation Umbrella, a pharmaceuticals company, is doing all kinds of experiments that are making the nearby animals and people into zombies. While exploring this mansion, though, you discover an underground laboratory, and you discover the Tyrant Zombie, which is, Super Zombie Man. And you also discover that Albert Wesker, a member on your team, is a double agent working for Umbrella Corp itself. Now, of course, before all this, there was Resident Evil 0, but we'll get to that later. Let's move on to the next entry in the series, Resident Evil 2. Released in 1998 as a sequel to the original Resident Evil, this one takes place 2 months after the original, where basically the entire town of Raccoon City has become just zombies. You play as Leon S. Kennedy, a rookie police officer sent to investigate the whole thing. And when you arrive, zombie infestation. You eventually meet up with Claire Redfield, the sister of Chris Redfield, who you played as in the last game. You discover that the scientist William Birkin, working for Umbrella Corp, who actually convinced Albert Wesker to take his research into, the evil direction, has created a new virus, the G virus, which is basically an enhanced tyrant virus, basically. And then later in the game, he injects himself with this virus, And of course, you know, he's a boss battle. What do you expect? Did I forget anything? Oh yeah, Tofu Survivor! Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about
Resident Evil 3.
Resident Evil 3 takes place during and 2 days after Resident Evil 2's events. So what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. In this installment of Resident Evil, a new type of zombie has been created called the Nemesis, created by Umbrella Corp to hunt down all the original members of STARS that went to the mansion in the first game, to destroy any witnesses. You play as Jill Valentine, one of the STARS members that went to this mansion, and that explains why the Nemesis is hunting after her. In this game, they add a lot of new mechanics in, like the 180-degree turn, and a lot of decision-making that can affect the entire game. Such as, you know, if the Nemesis comes, you can either run or decide to fight it, and, you know, it all comes out into different outcomes. You could say it might have been a precursor to Mass Effect? Nah, no. But what if? Also, just listen to that Nemesis theme. Now on to the next entry.
Resident Evil 4.
Which licensed one of the strangest controllers I've ever seen. When development started in 1999, Capcom was making a game that was completely different from every other Resident Evil game we've ever seen. It was so different that it got scrapped. But it wasn't bad. So it got its own game, Devil May Cry. Just think, the 8th Resident Evil game could have been DMC. So around the early 2000s, they started over with what became, you know, Resident Evil 4, the one we play today. So 2005, it was released as a GameCube exclusive as part of the Capcom 5, you know, the 5 games of the Resident Evil series that were going to be released as GameCube exclusives. Eventually, it was released on Microsoft Windows and PlayStation 2, and later on, Wii. In 2011, HD editions were released for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. You can find those for about, I think, $20? Yeah, $20. You play as Leon S. Kennedy from Resident Evil 2. Now a government agent, he has been sent to save the president's daughter who has been kidnapped in Spain. Leon is sent along with a team of police officers, and then things get crazy. You discover that a religious cult is behind everything, with their leader, Lord Sadler, who has infected the people with a certain parasite. Now, keep in mind that these people are not like zombies. Even though I said they're zombie-like, they're not really like zombies. They're still, you know, people. They can still carry out normal activities, eat, and talk and everything. But they're really devoted to their religion, I tell you. You meet up with many characters in this game. Lewis, a Spaniard, Ada Wong, who you met in Resident Evil 2, an agent working for Umbrella now, Mendez, known as the Big Cheese, Ashley Graham, the President's daughter, Jack Krauser, one of Leon's old war buddies, now working for Umbrella, Salazar, the Castellan, I don't know, I can't pronounce that, people, of a nearby fortress, and Lord Sadler, the religious leader himself. You must defeat the Los Illuminados and get Ashley home. Can you do it? Find out next time.
Same bad time, same bad station.
Also, it got rid of the clunky camera controls and got all kinds of new gameplay mechanics that made it a ton better than 1 through 3. But should they have introduced those new mechanics? If you've seen Egoraptor's Sequelitis, which you have, I know you have. In the Castlevania 4 episode, Ego talks about how in Super Castlevania 4, they added in all the new mechanics, essentially getting rid of all the old clunkiness of the older games. But that was that was part of the immersion with the old games. The clunkiness gave the tighter controls and everything to immerse you to feel like you were in a hopeless situation, much like the older Resident Evils. And then the new Resident Evil 4, it comes around, you have full camera, you can look anywhere, just shoot 'em up, bang, bang, bang. Yet, Resident Evil 4 is still critically acclaimed, as many will tell you, unlike another game in the Resident Evil series. But we'll get to that later. Up next is
Resident Evil 5.
Now let me get one thing perfectly straight. I don't hate Resident Evil 5. I just don't think it's really that good, and it really can't compare to any of the other games. Well, it is better than one other game. Resident Evil 5 is a game where you shoot Africans. Whoops, did we say that out loud? We mean all races. Nice save, Capcom. Nice save. And what better way to show you're not racist than to give you a really badly programmed African partner to help you shoot all of those races. So the story this time is pretty basic. Chris Redfield from the first, and that's it, joins the BSAA, an anti-bio-warfare organization, I think? Who knows? He goes to Africa to investigate a big virus infestation thing, whatever, only to realize that it's a parasite invented by Wesker. Ooh, big original story this time, eh, guys? Yeah. So then Chris and his African partner Sheva have to team up and kill the bad guys. Real deep story. On to the next atrocity spat out by Capcom.
Resident Evil 6.
As you most likely already know, Resident Evil 6 is hated by mostly everyone. But, is it for the right reasons? For some of them, yes. The main reason a lot of people hate Resident Evil 6 is because it's not like the other ones. Then again, Resident Evil 5 wasn't like the other ones also, but that one wasn't received as well either. Anyways, Resident Evil 6 is not a survival horror game. It's not. And anyone who tries to think that it is, they're simply wrong. It's an action game. And if you get in that mindset that it's an action game, you will have a ton of fun with this game. I'll tell you that I did, and it's one of the funnest action games I've ever played. Because it's fun, it's great. But if you are in the survival horror mindset, it's terrible. You're not going to have fun with it if you're thinking it that way. It's not going to live up to your expectations if you think that way. So, action game. What of it? Now, since there are 3 equally uninteresting campaigns in this game, I'm going to just run you through the stories real quick. Leon. Nothing really interesting happened in his campaign. At the end, he tells Hunnigan to fake his death. He's going to China. The end. Chris, after his fellow members of the BSAA died, jeez, and on Christmas Eve, jeez, Chris, oh my god, I'm so sorry, man. Anyways, after that, he became a drunken wreck, and someone named Pierce Nevanes convinced him to come back and finish the war on terrorism. I mean bioterrorism. Chris reluctantly joined back to the Jake, a mercenary for the fictional South Slavic Edonian Liberation Army, flees from the authorities during a bioterrorist attack. And then he helps the other guys fight. Yeah. That's it. The end! Hey guys, Chase here. So, that was the Resident Evil Historia video. I've been working for quite a long time on this, and I've got to say I'm pretty proud of how it came out. So I worked really hard on this. I really appreciate it if you guys could like and share and all that jazz. And if you like our content, subscribe possibly. It helps us spread our content around and helps more people see our stuff. And therefore, you know, gives us more of a reason to actually make this stuff other than just the goodness of our heart. Because, you know...